Okay. As always, let's start off by trying to get the audio levels right. Hopefully that's decent. Don't want the music too loud, but otherwise, welcome. Welcome to the stream. It's been a while since I have streamed, and I wanted to. I enjoy talking, and I enjoy that in the streams there's it just feels like there's so much less pressure to be super structured as compared to in a video. Um, so yeah, that's the plan today. And I'll get the rest of my equipment here, the rest of the gear, all set up more or less. Please enjoy the boxes in the background. I got a new keyboard kit today, so that's some of the excitement I was dealing with prior to streaming. But anyway, oh, that happens with the space bar. Apparently, hitting space bar. Oh, is that uncomfortable? That's new. I didn't know I could do that, but that's actually very useful. Hi, Ugo. How's it going? It's been a while. Sorry, I saw your first chat message there. I assume is song lyrics or something, and I apologize, but the only song lyrics I'll be accepting today are those from the Del Toro Pinocchio movie, because that's what I've been listening to lately. But yes, good morning, I suppose. Afternoon for me, but whatever people have got going, that's cool. In terms of time zone biz. Yeah, how have you been? Doing anything mildly interesting or watching anything good lately? Because yeah, I feel like that's most of what we'll end up talking about today. Is plenty of animation stuff. I do have the Game Awards thing here pulled up as well, just in case. Sorry, the coffee is already messing up my throat, but I need it. That's what we call dependency. Yeah, so I had not really watched the Game Awards live. I wasn't super interested in that. Mostly because of the style of presentation that it is, and like the weird integration with marketing. I almost would prefer that it was just more marketing, like E3. I don't want these ads here. Can I like? Nope. IGN really wants you to have the ads. Here, this is Cartoon Brew is a little bit better. But anyway, didn't really watch the Game Awards. I paid a little bit of attention afterwards, and the I don't know if we could call it a controversy that was experienced, but the weirdness around the Game Awards, I suppose. How's that? Is that okay? That way it looks like I'm looking at the rest of the broadcast screen, which I am actually. Ugo says I'm at work right now. I appreciate you taking the time out. Hope you're not getting in trouble. But I saw Wednesday, and it was okay. Yeah, so Wednesday, the Netflix phenomenon, I guess. And wow, those pipes are really going. Thank you. That's great timing to have the pipes just screeching in the background. Wednesday, yeah, Netflix refuses to stop marketing that show to me. Every single time on the profile selection page for Netflix on the smart TV, it's like, here's Wednesday. Did you forget about it? Everybody's talking about right now. Here you go. Here's yet another reminder that the show exists. I did try watching one episode. I think I got maybe 3 minutes in, and I just said, no, thank you. I no commentary on the quality or even like the proficiency of the storytelling or anything like that. It just really didn't hook me right away, and it also seemed very much like a show aimed at a completely different demographic. And yeah, I don't have any special affection for the Addams Family in the first place. It was around when I was growing up, of course. alongside the Munsters. And we know how the recent Munsters movie turned out. Anyway, but yeah, I'm here we go. We'll go Claire expands, I guess, saying that it's like Monster High, but with Wednesday. that's totally fair. Yeah, the performances seem fine. The concept is okay, and I keep hearing a lot of positive things about the execution. That's cool. I'm sure it'll end up being a fairly influential show for younger viewers, or at least at this point, so soon after release, that's what it looks like. Anyway. But yeah, I had a very similar experience, I guess, Ugo, to checking out Wednesday. But I definitely did not dig in or anything like that. So there you go. As for what else I have been watching, what has it been? I mean, I obviously I watched the Del Toro Pinocchio. I think I've watched it 2 more times since I recorded the VO for that video. And I continue to like it very much. There are a couple smaller things that I've noticed about the movie in rewatches and stuff. And something that skipped right by me on the first viewing that should not have really, is that Geppetto's song, the first like musical number in the movie, is called My Son. I don't think it has the greatest lyrics. I think it has a lovely melody and all that. And it's very slow. It's awfully sentimental and sappy. But later on, Pinocchio sings a song called My Bubblegum, which is essentially a reprise of Geppetto's song. It's the same melody. It's just the tempo's kicked up a whole lot. Obviously, completely different lyrics, although they sort of mirror the lyrics of the My Son song. But yeah, just a small detail that I really appreciate. And overall, the score, the Desplat score for that movie is just really special, I think. And I mean, I am just a fan of a lot of Desplat's stuff. Not so much The Theory of Everything, which I think he won an Oscar for that score. The stuff he's done with Wes Anderson more recently has been pretty decent. One of my favorite scores that he's ever done is for the Jonathan Glazer movie Birth, which is a really good movie. I like that movie quite a bit, even though I don't think it reviewed especially well, and it doesn't really get talked about much at all either. But the score for that is something I listen to very, very often. Really love that one. Anyway, but yeah, a lot of Pinocchio music, fantastic stuff. Great to listen to casually, except for a few of the darker tracks where it can be a little bit distracting, basically. Yeah, so I watched Pinocchio a few more times. What else have I usually have a log of the movies at least. So let's take a look. What else? Earlier today, I watched Babes in Toyland from 1986. I think the original was maybe from the 30s. And that was one that I had seen growing up, and it was only today that I realized I had grown up with it. I always kept trying to remember the movie where somebody fell out of the side of a Jeep in the snow and got transported to a magical alternate world. And I thought maybe it's Halloween Town. It's not Halloween Town. And all these other things, I just couldn't find it. But yeah, it turns out to be Babes in Toyland with Keanu Reeves and tiny Drew Barrymore from 1986. So I watched that. I also watched a couple of times now. I've watched 8 Crazy Nights. And it was only within the last week that I watched that movie for the very first time. It was one that I was always aware of growing up. Never saw as a kid. I didn't even think about it as a teenager and growing up past that. But I watched it. It's free on YouTube at the moment. I watched 8 Crazy Nights. And I have a video on the way about that movie because, as it turns out, it is the 20th anniversary of Eight Crazy Nights. That was released in 2002 originally, and we've been stuck with it ever since. Although I don't know, I'm honestly not really sure how most people feel about that movie. Ugo, I don't know if you have specific feelings about Eight Crazy Nights. And I would say Adam Sandler movies in general, because there are certain links to a lot of his other big popular mainstream movies, and in other ways it's very, very different. And that will all be covered in the video that I have coming out on that pretty soon, definitely before Christmas, I would hope. And it's it's a discussion video that I had with a friend, so if anybody's interested in that, please keep an eye out. But yeah, it was a bit of a trip to actually watch the movie in full for the very first time and compare that to this persistent image in my head that I've had basically since 2002 of what the movie would actually be like and what it would be about and all that kind of stuff. Ugo says, I saw Eight Nights back when it was in the theaters. Wow, you managed to see it in the theaters. Does that give us clues to age? Sorry, I'm just kidding, but I was like, it's PG-13, which even that seems like a weird choice to me. One of my suggestions was making it an R-rated movie and putting in more like adult content, and by adult content I don't mean like specifically like sexually explicit content, but just adult fare, swear words, crude humor. I think a lot of that stuff could have been amplified. But anyway, that's pretty interesting that you saw it in the theaters. If you have any memories at all of like what the vibe was like in the theater and how the rest of the audience was reacting, please share, because that's not something I've been able to find online so far. Although I did read through a bunch of Google reviews for the movie. But that's yet another thing that I will touch on in the upcoming video. So there you go. I'll leave that there for now, I guess, unless someone else has somewhere to put in. Anyway. Sorry, checking my page on the other computer here. It should be okay. Anyway, something that I have enjoyed doing on some of the streams more recently is just going through some of the just headlines and news related to animation and video games and media in general. So we're going to be doing some of that as well here today. Done a little bit of reading ahead already. But yeah, as we're heading into even more award season for basically all of the mainstream media formats, it's something to talk about. I kind of enjoy the excitement around, like, awards nominations and that stuff, although I don't tend to care as much about the winners. But anyway, we'll get to some of that too. Ugo says, I don't remember that. I think it was just me and my siblings. In like the whole theater, or just that's the part you remember is you went with your siblings? That would be kind of funny if you were like the only people in the theater. In fact, let me look up. Does Firefox is my preferred streaming browser. So I'm going to look up like box office stuff. Because I didn't do that already, which is kind of shocking. Okay. I don't know. I didn't really need to have that on the other screen, but anyway, let's take a look. I just want totals. Wait, what? It made less than $500,000 internationally. So I guess it didn't have an especially extensive international theatrical release. Oh my gosh. Okay, so wow. Less than 24 million worldwide estimated, most likely. But unless we have the budget, What is the budget? I'll just keep another research window open over here. That should be fine. Nope. Budget. Uh-oh. Whoops-a-daisy. We could have just asked Wikipedia from the get-go. 34 million budget. Less than 24 million gross worldwide, and that doesn't factor in marketing costs. Typically, the marketing budget is equal to the production budget for big studio movies. We can't say whether that was the case here. I'm guessing they did not spend $25 million on marketing, but if they did, it was an even worse loss. But if they spent $0 on marketing, which they did not, still a pretty bad loss. So wow, just a bomb in every dimension. And I'll go through in the video too, but like scored horribly with a lot of critics. Even to this day, the Rotten Tomatoes score is in the toilet. It hasn't done well in any dimension. Okay. Anyway, Ugo says here we went on a weekday to the movie right after school. So yes, it was on it was a small room. Then the other. So it may have just been us. Okay, so like one of the small theaters in like I'm picturing like a mall theater or something like that. But yeah, and I've totally been in screenings like that too, especially for something like this where depending on when it actually released. Okay, it released late November. I was going to say if it released close to the holiday and stuck around in the theaters following, which it did following Christmas for a little bit here in the general holiday season. Yeah. Some significant drop-offs in terms of the box office returns there. So wow, it was just like an out-and-out failure. I guess they expected that. That's not a very substantial budget, especially for an animated movie. I feel even around that time. So okay, but not great. But anyway. Going back to what you were saying, Ugo, I think I would actually prefer maybe to have seen it that way in the theater with nobody else, especially like as a kid or just as a younger person. Because even if I didn't like it at the time, I could have just, you can just yell stuff. you can talk, that's not something I do when the theater's filled up with people. So, wow. Anyway, that's some more research I should have done prior to making that video, but okay. Oh my goodness. And this is something I highlight. An hour and 16 minutes. That probably doesn't even qualify as a feature film by some standards. So it's a little bit shocking. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Little sidetrack there. No, it's relevant. It's holiday time. And yeah, like I said, the video will be coming out hopefully very, very soon. Just have to throw something together on the editing side. So let's move on to some of this stuff. Hold on. Gotta loop the music. VLC. Very good. Cool. Okay, so I was just going through Cartoon Brew, and they're doing plenty of end of year type stuff, reporting, and of course, one piece here is that the nominations for the LA Film Critics Association, which I had never heard of prior to this, and this gets talked about a lot. Not just relating to this particular set of awards, but like in the run up to the Oscars, you always hear outlets covering other awards shows, lesser awards shows, and ceremonies and stuff like that, because some of them seem to correlate, in terms of the winners that they choose and what ultimately wins an Oscar in any given category. So it's not too surprising that Cartoon Brew here is like, hey, just a heads up, this is what's going on over here. And yes, they specifically chose Del Toro's Pinocchio as the winner for the best animated feature category. I mean, if you've seen my video, you already know that I really, really, really like the movie. I still wouldn't say that I was completely like bowled over by it. There are a handful of movies that have come out within the last 10 years or so that even the first time watching them, it was just an incredible and impactful experience where I knew that it was going to be like one of my all-time favorites. There have also been movies where seeing them the first time I was kind of bowled over, but then later on that feeling faded quite a bit. And this time around, I think it was very much in the middle. Like I did feel really positively about it. I still feel very positively about the movie. It's not on my top 10 all time or anything like that, but it is really fantastic. And echoing something that I said in the recent video on the movie, as well as my prior video from much earlier in the year about the slew of Pinocchio movies we got this year. It is just such a unique opportunity to see how two completely different, not even studios, but like teams of entertainment professionals and creatives create a movie based on exactly the same source material, and the differences that that just naturally manifest as those different teams follow different guidelines, different motivations, different creative inspirations. And here, I mean, it's absolutely no contest between this movie and Disney's Pinocchio remake. I would be absolutely shocked if the Disney's Pinocchio movie got nominated for any Oscars, and in fact, it might not even be eligible because I don't think it had any kind of theatrical release. And I believe that post-pandemic, the Oscars have gone back to their rule where nominees have to have been released in some theater at some point for some length of time. It might even just be a day, a weekend, but I'm pretty sure that's still a requirement. And so if Disney's Pinocchio was exclusively a streaming movie, it just doesn't have a chance. The fact that it was a streaming exclusive movie as opposed to a theatrical release might be a tip-off that Disney knew, not necessarily from the start, but by the time they were getting ready to distribute the thing, that it just wasn't going to be all that great, or that it would not be an awards contender. So there you go. But then again, there's a lot of hubbub surrounding Disney right now, and ousting Chapek. Chapek's out as CEO, following some really bad financial reports, and Bob Iger, the boringest CEO, is back in. And one of the big points of criticism of Chapek was his extreme focus on streaming first, really prioritizing Disney's streaming strategy and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, I really enjoyed having the chance to compare the two movies. And even when I was watching, like, you can't help but compare the two. And I've been sort of encouraging other people to do the same thing, even watching with friends. I'm like, so you know the Disney one, right? Like, do you want to see some of the Disney one? And just how bad it is. Anyway, so that's cool. Great. They chose Del Toro's Pinocchio. It already has a win under its belt. Certainly not the biggest win in the world. But and this is, of course, the article here notes that Netflix has had some decent animated picks in terms of awards season in the past, or awards nominees. Klaus, which I still love. And by the way, I rewatched Klaus recently on my new fancy schmancy OLED TV, and it supports HDR in that one on Netflix. It looks so good. Ugo, I think we talked about it last year, Klaus, because I think that's when I'd seen it for the first time. I don't quite remember. But man, like, it's already a fantastic looking movie. It looks so good with high contrast, with HDR. It is really, really something. Anyway, sorry, just another side note there. But anyway, yeah, Klaus, Over the Moon, Mitchells versus Machines, which was a last-minute Netflix release, right? Why is Machines not in italics when the rest of the title is? I don't think that's correct. Anyway, critics are nearly universal in their praise for the film. Do I count? Am I on Rotten Tomatoes yet? And it's topped Netflix's most watched lists in numerous countries since launching last week. The film's cultural impact has been immense too, including a Museum of Modern Art, a MoMA exhibit launched last week. Wow, I guess that's part of the awards push, right? That's a pretty savvy move. And then, of course, they note that Marcel the Shell is in the discussion for a lot of these awards. Kind of out of nowhere. I mean, A24 certainly has a great track record for indies. But and you know what? Here's the most shameful thing, and I made a video about it prior to release. I still haven't seen Marcel. Did you watch this one, Ugo? Sorry, I know you're at work too. I ask you, person watching the archive version of the stream, did people watch this? I'm sure there were plenty of reviews on YouTube and stuff. I've seen the Rotten Tomatoes stuff. We all knew it was going to be great after that trailer. But I just didn't, and I don't even know if there are any streaming options for it right now, which I'll check. And I don't mean the original video, Google. No, they're charging 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. There it is. Yeah, I would really, really like to steal someone's screener of that movie. So I'll have to try to get in touch with some friends who work in entertainment or adjacent to entertainment and see if I can grab the screener, because I guess I could pay, but I just kind of want to watch it. Ugo says MVM, Mitchells versus Machines, I suppose. Was this a Sony movie that they could not get in theaters? I don't think it was that they couldn't in terms of like deals and stuff, but that was 2020, right? I think it was fall of 2020, or it was potentially slated for a theatrical release around then, but of course pandemic stuff was happening, so it got shifted. Let me see if I can look it up, but I think that's this new keyword actually sounds pretty good. I don't know how to search this exactly. Here we go. Insider. They've always got my back. How the Mitchells versus the Machines director navigated a move from Sony to Netflix to helm one of the highest rated movies of the year. I'm still not crazy about it, but it is a good movie. Okay, Michael Rianda. Yes. What? Stop. Sorry for the... What was that? Why was the ad flashing at us? Stop. Okay. Can you just... No. This is like marketing stuff, yeah. Okay. Rihanna said the studio thought the Mitchells title felt too... Oh, that's just about the title again. Things got worse. The pandemic hit, and suddenly Rihanna's movie, which was originally to open in theaters in October, was in limbo, like many others. Yeah, we saw that with plenty of other movies too. It led to Sony selling the movie to Netflix in January 2021. And I guess then he had the creative freedom to keep his the title that he wanted for the movie. Okay, so anyway, there you go. I thought it was something like that. I didn't know all of the details, of course. But yeah, that happened with plenty of movies. And Sony itself is in a weird place right now in terms of streaming distribution, right? Because I don't think they have an overall distribution deal with any given established streaming service. And they don't have their own, as far as I know. I don't think they could necessarily support that either. But anyway, so Sony stuff is just kind of all over the place. And I enjoy when it ends up on Netflix because I happen to have Netflix and it's more accessible for me there. But yeah, this was just an example of they had to make a tough choice of release it in theaters, which will cost a bunch of money, and it probably won't make that much, or put it out on streaming and see what kind of deal we can get. So I don't know if they reported what Netflix paid for the movie, but that seems to be how it shook down. Okay. Moon Tilt, how's it going? I'll say Moon. Yo, it's Ryan. I changed my name on YouTube. Cool. I'll just go with Moon, I guess, just because when it comes up, it'll be easy to read. I can't wait. Next month, my favorite anime, Record of Ragnarok, is getting a second season, and it has my favorite fight from the manga, Jack versus Ripper versus Heracles. Oh, okay. It's cool that you've been following the manga as well. I haven't watched that one at all. I do think I've heard the title, and in fact, the title might have come up in that ancient stream I did where I was just looking for, anime recommendations, and we just talked about a bunch of different shows. Anyway, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we're talking about all kinds of stuff, but we were talking about Netflix shenanigans, and Del Toro's Pinocchio starting to win awards, and also Mitchell's versus the Machines winning awards the previous year, I guess 2 years ago. Ugo says Sony and DreamWorks are still one of the big companies to still use Netflix. Yeah, I definitely think that's fair to say. And there's some more commentary on that subject in this other article here that I'll be heading to next. Yeah, so let's do that. We were also talking about 8 Crazy Nights because I have a video coming out on that pretty soon. Okay, so this is a decent article, of course, from Cartoon Brew again, and basically just runs down, okay, what were the feature animated films this year, and their associated companies, and so who came out on top, who didn't do so well. So way down here, Disney, they have some issues. We touched on some of those already, and we can talk about them some more if we want to. But down here, down here, we have Sony, and yeah, some issues. They only released one animated feature, which was Transformania, which I actually liked more than I thought it would. That was streaming exclusive. Went to Prime Video, and then what was it? Okay, Spa. What is Spa? Sony Pictures Animation. Oh, sent 3 features straight to Netflix. Angry Birds Movie 2. Oh wait, no, just 3 other ones. The studio's last wide theatrical release was the Angry Birds Movie 2, which I don't remember, in August 2019. And then, yes, they very recently announced the sequel to Spider-Verse. I don't like the title, by the way. And that comes out, it's going to be a summer movie. That's going to be a summer blockbuster for next year. And, of course, we cannot forget the Minions nonsense. Still haven't seen that movie, by the way. Have you guys seen that movie at all? Were you caught up in the memes? Were you doing nonsense at the theaters this year? I kind of just blocked it out, basically. I also want to read this about Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh yeah, DC Leagues. I think it's League of Super Pets. Not much money. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know what they're working on at the moment. Paramount. Oof. Ugh. Moon says it's basically about different gods plus Buddha and Shiva from Buddhism and Hinduism, from mythologies, and they fight real humans from history. That sounds like Unchained and kind of great. Hang on, it's Record of Ragnarok, yes? Whoops. Manga. Yep. Okay. I just want to see some images here. I want to pull up some image results. What do we got? Oh, some intriguing art right from the get-go here. That's neat. It's a fun premise. I guess Sorry. If anything, I guess I would be a little bit concerned that some people would take issue, with like, oh, you're gonna not so much historical figures, but of course religious figures. There's a history of certain media entities portraying, religious figures, and then certain people getting very upset about that. But it seems successful. It seems like it's been going okay. They haven't been hunted down by anyone, so we're very thankful for that. But yeah, even just like, messing around with historical figures when it's so clearly heightened and weird, and I assume really fit into a manga and anime format. Why would anybody have an issue with that, honestly? As long as it's not like insanely disrespectful, I think that's just fun. So that's neat. That's pretty cool. That's another one I'll have to add to my unending list of like anime recommendations. And I'm very slowly getting into some manga as well, lighter stuff, but I tend to watch more than I read the manga stuff. Okay. Anyway, Ugo says, I just saw the honest trailers of the Minions, and that is all good for me. Okay, so you didn't watch the full movie or anything. Yeah. If it is, I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere. Is it Rise of Gru? Is that just gobbledygook? No, that's definitely it. Oh, it's on Peacock. Because it's through wait. I thought it said it was a Paramount release. Huh? No, it wasn't. Sorry. Not even a little bit. Oh, it's Universal. Okay, so Universal is NBC, which is Peacock, and then Paramount has a bunch of other stuff, and they have Paramount Plus now, which used to be CBS All Access, in which I refuse to get, by the way. I don't like that service very much. Anyway, so we'll see. I might not watch it at all if I can't get to it streaming. So, by the way, is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish actually out? Has it been released? Because I keep seeing ads that say Christmas, and it seems to already be out because there are a bunch of showtimes. It says release date December 21st. So Rotten Tomatoes 96. My taste remains impeccable. I knew it was going to be great. I guess I'm missing out. I'm sure I missed the review cycle, so if I even tried to make a video about it, it would just get buried. Anyway, very confusing. Like, why can't there just be a release date and that's when the movie comes out? And will Puss in Boots get a lot of awards attention? Probably not. I don't think. Not quite art housey enough. But yeah, it really does seem like a crowd pleaser, and I'm so happy with the art direction that that's good enough for me. Moon says still no news on the Scott Pilgrim anime, sadly. Yeah, that's sure seems to be dragging on. I hope it's not in like a bad place in terms of just production and logistics and all that. But it does seem like something that we've been hearing about for so long. I haven't seen any clips. I don't even know if we have like a release window for that one. So anyway, Ugo, I assume referring to Paramount Plus streaming service. It doesn't have very good stuff, and they charge you $7.99 plus tax. Yeah, that's the ad tier. And my TV sometimes freezes on the ads. Yes, not only that, but when I was using it, I was testing it out with somebody else's login and then deleted it. When I paused, I was watching a show, and when I paused so that I wouldn't miss something and could go do something else, it gave me an ad. it glossed over the freeze frame of the show I was watching and gave me like a McDonald's ad. And that was pretty shocking. That's really bad. Like it's one thing for subscribers to be paying money and still getting a bunch of advertising, because it is a lot. Like those ad breaks are rough. Not a big fan of that already, but on top of that, they just seem to be looking for and finding so many other places to insert advertising. I'm really not into it. Sorry, a little bit of a, yeah. There's Paramount Plus. So I have been finding other ways to watch and enjoy all of the Star Trek stuff that they own, or at least the Star Trek stuff they own that I want to watch. And it's been great. I just don't have to mess around with that service at all. Moon says, oh yeah, a member of BTS is now in the South Korean army. I don't like BTS. Just saw on Twitter. Also, Blink-182 reunion. Tom's back. Wow, man. You got the news. And I also appreciate that news spans two very different eras of popular music. Well, isn't it a thing? I'd have to double check. But I was under the impression that a certain amount of military service was compulsory for men in South Korea, specifically young men, of course. But that might be a thing that just like everybody's automatically signed up for that, and when they call your name, you have to put in 2 years or whatever it is. So, not confirmed. That just sounds like something I have heard at some point. Don't know whether or not that's the case, but even so, I have no doubt that the marketing team behind that massive group is going to try to use this to their advantage, and go for some kind of nationalistic thing of like, look, he's always a patriot, he's doing his part, kind of like Starship Troopers. Ugo says, and the Blink 182 stuff, that's pretty cool. I listened to them a little bit when I was younger, and I had no idea. I assume they're gonna tour if they're doing a reunion thing. That's cool. I'm cool with that. I have plenty of friends who are super into some of the MCR reunion stuff in the last few years. Ugo says, still on Paramount Plus, yes. Ugo says it gives you ads and lowers the video to the right. You can restart it at any point. You don't have to watch the ad. I want to stop it to see an image better. Yes. I think you're right there. So yeah, it's not a video ad that it's giving you when you pause the show. It's like a still image ad. But yes, exactly to your point here. There are tons of reasons why you would want to pause a show, especially if you're like someone like me who maybe wants to make a video about a show, or you're just someone who's interested in a particular aspect of the production, or the story, or you're trying to do some kind of research with it. Like there's so many reasons to want to pause and still be able to see the image, and that's the whole point of pausing. It kind of blows my mind that they have managed to be that, what I consider to be, really sleazy so quickly. Maybe it's because CBS All Access performed so poorly that now they're just like, any money we can get. Any money we can get at all from this subscriber base, and I don't think that's a good standard. It's not a good precedent. I don't think it's a good way to treat the existing subscriber base. Anyway, yeah, I'll have to step away from that discussion for a moment. Was there anything else like useful in here? I'm still confused by the Crunchyroll Funimation merger acquisition deal. Because I've heard analysts and stuff say like, oh, when they merged, all of a sudden you get access to this huge library overnight and you can just watch stuff. And I assume they're not saying that literally, because I had both for a while and I kept checking Crunchyroll for shows that I was watching on Funimation, and they just weren't there like months after that deal went through. I'd have to check again, but like what's the deal? Like, what? How long exactly is that migration going to take? Because all they keep yelling at me on Funimation. They're like, hey, move over to Crunchyroll. That's where everything's going. And it's just not there yet. It's very, very strange to me. So, anyway, but what do they say here? Sony's anime arm, I did not know they were owned by Sony. Had a year for the record books. Jujutsu Kaisen and Dragon Ball Zero's Dragon Ball Super Hero, both broke into the top 5 all-time highest-grossing anime titles at the U.S. box office, and One Piece Film Red shattered that franchise's U.S. box office record by grossing $12.8 million. Obviously, not that much in the broader scope of U.S. box office returns, but for an anime movie, pretty big deal. By the way, I may have mentioned previously, I have been watching One Piece for the very first time. Since, I don't know, the last couple months, I guess, more seriously within the last few weeks. And I'm now on episode, I think I'm on like 315, somewhere around there. And yeah, I'll have to do something on that show because obviously there's a ton to talk about, and I always think it's kind of interesting to add like an outsider's perspective, right, to a show that's just it's so popular worldwide, and I have not been following it, for these many years. So yeah, I'll probably do a video about the first chunk, the first third of the show, I guess, and then try to go from there, because watching it all and trying to do a video about all of it, I know that's hip on YouTube right now to be like, I watched all of X and I'm going to talk about every single episode for 3 seconds. I don't think I want to do that, so we'll see. But yeah, have been watching One Piece and I have plenty of thoughts on it. So yeah. Ugo says it was all just a Quibi, a Quibi situation. I do hope Quibi becomes a shorthand for just like a really ill-fated streaming service that was never really going to last, and it just dies off very quickly. Moon says, over the weekend, I watched all 10 hours of Daybreak on Netflix just to learn that there will be no season 2. Ooh, rough. So is it a situation where they knew that they weren't going to get a second season, so they managed to wrap things up in terms of story? I don't know that property, sorry, at all, so I can't comment on specifics. Did they manage to wrap it up, or does it just end like in a brick wall, heading into a brick wall? That's my least favorite. That's the least, satisfying when they weren't planning for it. It's just like, okay, we're done now. Goodbye. Ugo says One Piece is the only manga that I read now. There's just so many books, so much. Books started back in 1997. Wow, yeah. And then what? The show pretty soon after that, I feel like, just based on the look of the first season. But yeah, it's just it's massive. It's been around for so long. They've done so much with it, and I could totally see the fan base having very different opinions about different decisions that they've made over the course of this massive run. That's what, over 1,000 episodes at this point. Yeah. But I actually have a friend who specifically prefers the manga to the anime, and they're just like, yeah, just the way that they convey movement and Luffy himself and all that kind of stuff is just so much more impressive in the manga. According to this friend, I can't compare because I haven't read any of the manga. But anyway, but it's cool that you've been following. Do you actually have like the full collection or something, or do you get them online? Or that's pretty crazy. Moon says, over 2023. I'm going to try to read all of Tolkien's Middle-earth novels. And Moon also says, nope, there was going to be one, but they did not make it. For Daybreak, I think. Season 2 of Daybreak, they were planning on making a second season, but then they didn't. Very interesting. But yeah, going back to the Tolkien goal, very admirable, I will say. Especially as someone who growing up was very very much into uh, Tolkien's work, and yeah, because of course the trilogy was coming out when I was still pretty darn young and in some of the formative years, and I already really liked to read. So I read The Hobbit very early on. That's a nice, easy one. Not much lore, not that many appendices of additional information and backstory. And then I think I tried to read through just Return of the King before the movie came out, because Return of the King was the only movie of the trilogy that I saw in theaters. And I did not finish. I think I got a decent way. I might have gotten all the way up to Shelob, or whatever the correct pronunciation is. But beyond that, I did read some stuff from The Lost Road and other writings, which is a lot of lore. I think it was technically unfinished by the time he died, but they had gathered it into a collection. Similarly, I never picked up the Silmarillion, which is sort of I guess that's the Mount Everest, in terms of his lore and like the density of his histories of Middle Earth and all that. So never got that far, but yeah, obviously I do have a lot of positive associations with it, and I did enjoy a lot of that stuff, although it can get very tough if you're not prepared for the density and the sheer volume of stuff, the sheer volume of information about all the different races and historical periods and all that. But either way, very cool. Very cool. That's going to be a goal of yours. Hopefully you already have you have copies of each thing lined up and ready to go. And I don't think it would hurt to get a bit of a head start, right now, basically, because I mean, I don't know. I personally don't tend to be a very fast reader, and I kind of don't like to read things quickly. I really enjoy taking my time with it, so I would definitely need as much time as possible to get through all that stuff, especially if my motivation started to wane. Cool. All right. What else we got? Is there anything else we can pull from this lovely article here? Netflix has confirmed 4 animated features: Magician's Elephant, Nimona, Monkey King, which I think we talked about recently, and Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. I did not know about that, and hinted there will be more. None of those really stand out quite like Wendell and Wild did coming into 22. Oh, okay, I guess it's a little subjective. Good deal of buzz around Nimona, former Blue Sky Studios. Oh, is that the one that they abandoned, or that like got canceled at the very end? I think it is. Aardman's Chicken Run sequel. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty big deal. Ugo says, I read them all online, the One Piece manga, I think. I remember the 4Kids dub that came out in 2004, and they just skip around the story. It's a very bad but funny dub. I think a lot of bad dubs can be pretty funny, unless they just plain get in the way of enjoying the thing, But yeah, I've come across some very, very bad dubs. There's a really bad dub of Haruhi. What is it? The Melancholy of Haruhi? Sorry. But yeah, whatever English dub for that one that I saw was distractingly bad. Really, 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 really bad. And some good ones out there too, for sure, but bad ones are funnier. Okay. Moon says, oh, I know Tolkien is most likely the first lore dumber. I don't know if that's a typo or a term that I'm just not familiar with, but I think I understand. Yeah, so much of it is just the lore, and I think some people even kind of like raised that more or less as a joke, is just that like it seems that so much of what he enjoyed was creating the languages and the conlangs, I guess they're called, right? And the world itself and the races and all that, all the lore stuff. and that the story was kind of it can come across as kind of secondary to all that because he spends so much time talking about all the lore, and I have no doubt that a massive amount of time was spent cooking up the lore in the first place. Like I almost can't even imagine, setting that much to paper about a fictional world. Although it might be fun to try, but Dumper, not Dumber, Lord Dumper. I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Ugo says Blue Sky is now owned by the Big D, and all their movies are now on Disney Plus. Yes, so that's something I talked about in a video a little while back. Oh yeah, it was a video on the Peanuts movie from, I think, 2015 is when that was released, around there. But yeah, they're gone. They just got straight up acquired, I guess, as part of a larger deal, I think. But yeah, like what is it? Spies in Disguise is on there. Peanuts movies on there. The Ice Age movies are on there, which seems strange because I always saw those as like a big alternative to the Disney Pixar stuff of the same time. But yeah, if I remember correctly, here let's there we go. I believe it was in the Wikipedia article for Blue Sky Studios. Yes, so they were owned by 20th Century Fox, and of course 20th Century Fox, now just called 20th Century, are owned by Disney. Okay. Yes. Okay, so Disney announced the closure, which is, I have some words, but I've already said a lot of those. In addition, production on a film adaptation of the webcomic Nimona, originally scheduled to be released in 2022, was canceled as a result of its closure. The studio's film library. I don't know if it's mentioned here. I do remember seeing somewhere that, like, members of the team were just expressed being really disappointed that they axed Nimona, because apparently there are some elements of the story that deal with, I guess, like gender identity, or maybe even like sexual orientation stuff. And there was some speculation that maybe Disney didn't actually want to deal with a lot of that, which is awful because they keep, they just keep trying. What's this? In March 2022, amid the controversy of Disney's involvement in Florida House Bill 1557, referred to by some as the Don't Say Gay bill, and lack of criticism from Bob Chapek, Insider reported that 3 former Blue Sky staff members stated Nimona received pushback from Disney leadership in mid-2020, centered around the film's LGBT themes and a same-sex kiss. Initially, Blue Sky leadership removed the same-sex kiss from presentations to Disney, despite hoping to ultimately include it in the film. Blue Sky leadership eventually showed reels to staffers that included the kiss, the sources said, but the studio was shut down soon after. Nimona would be picked up by Annapurna Pictures in early 2022, with DNEG Animation taking over production for release on Netflix. Okay, so it was just taken from Blue Sky. I guess that was the only way to actually get it made. Wow, that's anyway, that confirms what I had heard, I guess, about that project. Pretty shocking. And at the same time, not very shocking that Disney actually doesn't have much of a stomach for gender identity stuff, LGBTQIA plus stuff. So, my goodness. Okay. Moon says it took Tolkien 15 years to make just the Lord of the Rings books alone, not counting the Silmarillion and the Hobbit, plus every other thing about Middle Earth. That's wild. That's pretty crazy. And if I remember correctly, his background was originally in, like, is it etymology? The study of languages that I always forget the term for, ironically. but yeah, I think that had a huge influence, obviously, on all the Conlang stuff. And yeah, I think especially for a lot of the fans, that's a lot of what he is remembered for, is just the breadth and the scope of the lore that he ended up creating for this thing. For this world, we can't even say that it was all created for the Lord of the Rings. That just happens to be, of course, the most well-known segment of the stories about Middle Earth and the histories and everything. And I'm pretty sure too that the Lord of the Rings was originally meant to be a singular book, and then the publisher was just like, what are you thinking? Or maybe it was briefly published as a single volume. I'd have to check up on that, but pretty crazy. Pretty crazy stuff. And yeah, does anybody want to donate to Wikipedia? I have in the past, but that just means that they send me even more emails and stuff about donating more money. So bit of a mixed bag there. Anyway, what else we got? What else we got going on? Ugo says Big D may lots of ads with their first lesbian for Onward, then she just gets one line. They made lots of ads about there being, well, yeah, I mean, yes, it's something that we've no doubt talked about before, and that other channels and other media people have talked about before, definitely. But yes, Disney seems to have a very seemingly, please no one try to come after me for this, they seem to have a contradictory and maybe even hypocritical approach to inclusion, in terms of racial, ethnic diversity and a lot of other stuff, gender identity and sexual orientation diversity and a lot of their stuff. And a lot of people have rightfully pointed that out project to project, so in one breath, Disney's marketing department, specifically for like the West and especially the US, seems extremely motivated to hype that stuff up and to be like, oh yeah, we're being inclusive. Look, what is it, LeFou in the live action Beauty and the Beast remake? He's canon gay in this version, and it's not something that's really communicated or even confirmed in the final movie. There is a same-sex kiss in Rise of Skywalker that was indeed cut out of one of the versions for the movie. It might have been the version for Singapore? I forget. I know Singapore has some weird laws about that stuff. It's a thing. It's a thing where they seem to be very hypocritical, and they really just want to tell people what they want to hear in any given territory, which, like, yes, that is what marketing is, especially for big international release movies. But, like, which part is genuine? And are they only including this kind of stuff in the first place for the sake of those marketing angles? Do they want to appear that they are being super inclusive? Of course they do. That's the hip thing right now. And I have rarely, if ever, gotten the impression that it's genuine, that there's a really genuine desire to have, healthy representation of a bunch of different identities, for your characters. I just don't think that's real. Maybe it will be for Disney in the near future, but at the moment and in the recent past, I don't think that's accurate at all. Anyway, Moon says Tolkien was a linguistics study of language. I feel like there's another word too, but anyway, linguistics. Yeah, a soldier in World War One, father and writer. Yep, had a bunch of kids. He was buddies with C.S. Lewis. Very religious as well. Tolkien was very, very Catholic, and I think that made it into a lot of his work also. Ugo says he was way more gay in the 1991 movie. That's kind of the ironic part, right? And maybe, well, I would assume that's where that idea came from for LeFou, is like, okay, make him in certain ways stereotypically gay in this version, maybe inspired by that portrayal in the animated original. I heard nothing but criticism of that aspect when the remake, the live action remake, actually came out. I didn't hear anybody celebrating that. I did see a lot of marketing around that. To your point, what you were saying earlier about the character in Onward, yes. And Onward, by the way, I mean, in general, I feel that Pixar is, both in terms of like a brand marketing perspective and also just in terms of their history and their talent and like the reputation they've set up for themselves, Pixar is a million times better. Like, if they want to even appear remotely genuine in their like inclusion and representation efforts, it almost definitely has to come from Pixar. And I say that in a very cynical light on the one hand, but like, I also have no doubt that tons of people working at both Disney and Pixar genuinely want to have, healthy representation and inclusion. But those are not people in, really high up decision making positions. So it just doesn't happen. It just they can imply it. Luca, I guess, is the kind of the poster child for this whole situation, and potentially trying to be more blatant about it. But canon, I don't think it's canon that Luca is gay, or just not heterosexual. Especially since he's such a young character, I don't think they would even approach that in like a canon surface level sense. But isn't that how a ton of people interpret it? Watching it, I couldn't help but feel that angle of the movie. I just felt like, oh, okay, so they're actually talking about like sexuality here. Sure, you can also argue that the whole hatred of like the mermen people is an analog for immigration, right, and like nationalism and that stuff, xenophobia. But specifically the character dynamics in Luca, it really, really just felt like, oh, like this is like a romance. This is like they have their little meet cute moment and everything. Anyway, so yeah, if we ever actually get some really like blatant isn't the right word because I think it has a negative connotation, but if we ever get really clear representation of LGBTQIA, or gender identities that have not been historically represented, it's probably going to come from Pixar first. I would not be surprised by that at all. And when it does finally happen for real, and like it's a story maybe even about one of those topics, you can bet they are going to market based on that heavily. Even though I feel like we're starting to see the end of that era where every little thing, the first of X, the first of Y, the first of Z in a movie related to representation aspects, that used to be just a few years ago, they used to be a massive marketing angle. And I feel like it's dying off. That's just based on casual observation, of course, but that's kind of how I feel about it at the moment. Anyway, Moon says Middle Earth, the One Piece world, and the Lands Between from Elden Ring. They have to be the best fictional worlds made by men, specifically mean like male creators, I guess. Pretty cool. I mean, I have a decent amount of experience with each of them. I mean, obviously, One Piece only recently, so I don't know all about that quite yet, and the various parts of the map and the second half of the Grand Line and all that. But I would agree that they're very appealing. I mean, especially Middle Earth and the Lands Between. They're so heavily rooted in what is now considered to be like traditional Western fantasy or like high fantasy. But at the same time, they both have so much character of their own. I really enjoy them both a whole lot. So generally, yes, I agree just fine with all that stuff. I mean, I'm also not the biggest expert on fantasy world building stuff, or even like sci-fi world building, is just something I happen to experience casually through different media consumption. So anyway, at some point I'll go back to playing Elden Ring. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it, but I will play it. We'll play more of it at some point. I do really enjoy being in that world, so there you go. Ugo says Hans Christian Andersen was a gay guy. I actually didn't know that. And he made The Little Mermaid because he had he liked, or he had a crush on a guy that wasn't returning the feeling. Interesting. I haven't heard about this. The way you're presenting it sounds like we have evidence of that and not like interpretation of the story, I guess. But I did not know that Hans Christian Andersen was gay. Hadn't heard of that before. Obviously, I'm familiar with a lot of his versions of classic fairy tales and such. But that's very interesting. Do you think they'll try to incorporate that into the new Little Mermaid? I'm guessing not. I have a feeling no, but who knows? Maybe we should stay optimistic for some reason. Ugo also says the Owl House has very good LGBTQ plus, etc. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would agree generally. Not that I'm an expert or like giving the final word on that at all, but just for my part, I really enjoy the Owl House, and I think they handle a lot of character stuff generally very well. Not specifically like character identity stuff and romance. That's all good too. But yeah, I was very impressed with how the show handled its characters, and everything felt fine. Yeah, it definitely feels like a fictional world in which that stuff's not going to be an issue. And I think there's plenty of value in that, in providing fictional worlds where it's not something you need to worry about, you know? I've heard a similar thing expressed about Star Trek, the original series. And someone was saying that, you know, one of their favorite moments from that show is when they're hanging out with Abraham Lincoln on the Starship Enterprise. And long story short, Abraham Lincoln thinks that he's offended Lieutenant Uhura by using an outdated term that's arguably racist, right? And Uhura doesn't feel offended because racism is so far in the past for humanity that it's just not. It doesn't even come to mind. You know, you're not worried about that stuff. It's a non-issue. And yeah, I do think there's a lot of power potentially in portrayals like that, right? You know, as there's also power in showing characters dealing with adversity and like dealing with people who aren't okay with their identity. But yeah, it's also nice to just it's okay. Like no one even sneezes at something like that. I think that can be really useful in storytelling. Cool. Moon says, I love how Homestuck shows men as victims of abuse, how it's hard to be an LGBTQ teenager, and a bunch more stuff. When I said men, meant as a human race. Sorry, regarding the previous comment about like just some of the best fictional worlds created by people, I guess in that sense. Okay. I never watched Doctor Who, but I saw the scene on YouTube where one of the doctors shows Van Gogh's art in a museum, and it made me cry. Oh yeah, that's a very popular clip on YouTube. I think it has like many millions of views. But yeah, I've seen that pop up too, and it's a sweet idea, right? Like, and there's been so much media, like time travel media, I guess you could say, that tries to hit on similar feelings of like, oh, if X person only knew the impact that they would have later on, you know, and like their historical significance and all that kind of stuff. Like what would they say? What would their reaction be? And of course, Van Gogh is such a famous example of someone who just wasn't celebrated in his time. He was reasonably successful, but not that successful. not a Rembrandt situation where he was toast of the town. Anyway, you know what I kind of want to try to do, because for one thing, I'll probably I will probably start winding down, but one thing I really want to try to do, and I wanted to save it for the end specifically because we might get a copyright thing and they might shut the whole stream down. Sorry, I know that makes it sound really intense. Here's the idea. I recently it's not that fun. I recently tried to watch some of the marketing that they've released for the upcoming Harry Potter game. And I know the controversy's there. I am not dismissing controversy and the horrible things that J.K. Rowling has said. And like, I know plenty of people are just like, I refuse to pay attention to the game at all. I totally respect that, and I'm not trying to conflict with that. However, I hate the marketing they've been doing for this game so much. Like just the style of presentation that they've been trying here is my least favorite thing. And I thought it would be kind of fun to watch some of it and just kind of comment on some of it along the way and see how far we could get. Like I said, might copy claim everything. I would not be surprised by that. At the same time, I have a little bit of hope that because it's just like, it's not a trailer, it's just gameplay with people talking about it. There's a shred of hope that maybe they haven't put that into a content ID system and that they will not claim that footage. So what do you think? I know there's a delay too, so I'll leave it for a little bit. But what do you guys think of this idea? And in the meantime, I will try to pull it up over here. Yeah, it's one they just released the other day, I think. Yes, Hogwarts Legacy Gameplay Showcase 2. Yes. Okay, so IGM has it streamed for some reason. Hogwarts Legacy channel has it up 1 million views in a day. And then there's some other channels like talking about it. Pause. Uh-oh, did I break YouTube over here? I might have broken YouTube. Oh, no. Moon says the Gollum game is going to be good. Yeah, I remember. I guess what we just got the teaser for that one. Who's working on it? What's the studio? Wow, why did I take my glasses off? Oh my gosh. I haven't had an eye appointment in a very long time, and I can't. Yeah, need new glasses. And without the glasses, it's just hopeless. Yeah. Okay. Who's the developer? Is Daedalic. So Daedalus, but Daedalic Entertainment. Who are they? German video game developer and publisher based in Hamburg, known for developing point-and-click adventure games. Oh, interesting. Like what? Let's see. I'm just curious right now. What have they done? Seems like they do quite a bit. Unrailed. Oh, is this all stuff they developed or stuff they've just published? Might be a bit of both. But yeah, Lord of the Rings Gollum, it's on the way. Have they even given like a release window for that one? Planned release date, lurking until the time is right. Very funny reference. Yeah, okay. So just nothing, no system specs or anything. Like they're just like sometime. It'll happen at some point. Okay. All right. So how about this? Is there any way for us to like obscure this This gameplay showcase, I don't know. I'm kind of okay if we get the claim after the fact, but I really hate when they try to shut the stream down while it's going on. I'm not a big fan of that approach. YouTube is advertising to me. I don't care. I don't know. What do you guys think? Man, this chair is squeaky. Okay. Of course, I mean, if you were curious, the game is going to be rated T for teen. So, that's some good information. Moon says it's going to be the last PS4, Xbox One game, and that's all we know about Gollum. Okay, so they're still trying to do cross-gen, I guess. Interesting. Okay, well, what else I got? Join game director Alan Tu, systems designer Mackenzie Toner, community manager Chandler Wood, and special guest community host Ben Snow. In this gameplay showcase, our hosts will take you through a new look at broom flight and traversal, advanced combat, and an introduction to the Room of Requirement. This advertising stuff. Here you go. Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy common rooms not up to code. That's kind of funny. Let's try it. You know what? Let's try it. And if I do end up getting the claim, I'll just try to edit out this portion of the stream so that people can watch. I do think it's kind of important for people to be able to watch, you know, a stream after the fact. Not everybody can be here live. I understand that. Okay, so we're gonna try it. Who cares? Who cares? Let's just try to watch the thing. So I mean, as a just to set this up and to clarify, like, I have some experience working in marketing. I don't like marketing all that much, but I've done some of it, and video game marketing is endlessly fascinating to me, and it's an area that's been evolving pretty rapidly as the mainstream popularity of video games has just skyrocketed over the last, I don't know, 10 to 20 years. And this is an example of a specific style of marketing that, like, in a way it's meant to mimic the influencer thing, you know, of like, I'm your buddy and you like me and you can relate to me and I'm going to show you why this thing's super cool because we're friends and you should buy it. But at the same time, like, you can see some of the money behind it and like their individual attempts to come across as like super excited and passionate. And we just want to show you what's going on, and even making excuses for certain aspects is funny and cringy to me, and I have a very hard time watching it. So to set up, that's how I feel about this already. I made it like 2 minutes in and I had to stop. I really hate that overwhelming sense of just how phony something is. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and watch some of it. Feel free to follow along, and we'll see how long we can put up with it. Okay. Oh, also, sorry. Levels. Oh, that's okay. All right. This will fool the copyright bots, so I'll just move my mouse across. That's was that live action footage? 60 FPS? Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you. So, is this, here we go.
Gameplay showcase. I'm Chandler Wood, community manager.
Community manager. Look at that haircut.
I'm honored to introduce you to our panel
tight.
Today. First up, we have community guest host Ben Snow.
Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. Thank you so much for having me.
This guy is maybe the worst
from
one.
The Avalanche team, we have game director Alan Tu.
Hello, everybody.
And systems designer Mackenzie Toner.
So these are actual devs over here.
Capturing gameplay for us, Andrew Corum.
All right.
Today
Oh,
we'll
God.
be bringing you a taste of the open world via Broom Flight, a deeper look at combat using the Dark Arts Battle Arena, and a look at your personalizable home within Hogwarts, the Room of Requirement. Where
the set is fine. I don't know why these
And we're
cords are
right where we
dangling.
left
Okay.
off in our last gameplay showcase, just outside Hogwarts.
Oh, that's weird.
I love that you can walk out of the castle after walking through everything, and then just come out here and take off on your broom out into the open world.
Yeah.
And Alan, I know that's something that you particularly like about Hogwarts Legacy too.
Stream hasn't been pulled yet. I think we're okay.
I'm a fan of just being able to hop on the broom and go anywhere.
Yeah, so you can usually tell quite a difference between the actual devs and the media people, you know.
I love the proximity that I can get to things. I love,
and the devs are doing their best. I don't want to criticize them too much.
I kind of wanted to talk about it just because I feel like you know, the brooms are fun for me, not just because of all those feelings of exhilaration, but because they're not just I have a broom and it's done. I actually kind of like some of the mechanics in it. So you see in the lower right, there's a meter there, and occasionally as Andrew's kind of flying up or flying down, you might notice it draining or not. And this isn't the present day where all the broom technology is well known and advanced and everything that we know.
This is pretty interesting because at least to me, it kind of sounds like an excuse. It's like, oh, this looks really slow. Whereas everything we saw in the movies, oh, it's super fast. You can just be darting around and doing some crazy stuff. And here it's just like, oh, okay. It almost looks like a horse mount in certain games. It's much slower.
We're still trying to figure out, you know, we're not at the 3,000
but they're trying to build that into the lore. It's long before the events of the movies and books.
The world just looks so. By the way, the broom is that like the.
And this guy whose job it is to just be hype man and like get excited about things. Woof.
Because this is just so beautiful. The world just looks so. By the way, the broom, is that like the only one, or can you like operate that broom to go custom?
Operate the broom more custom to be more custom? We know what he was trying to say.
Actually, a broom shop, and so that sells a variety of different brooms. And it was important to us that the player could customize themselves based on their own aesthetic. So they're purely cosmetic, but if you talk to the shopkeep and help him out, he'll actually sell upgrades.
Okay.
Yeah, and those upgrades will make it so that where normally the broom you can only fly, you can only go at max speed. It's kind of like a turbo meter down there.
Oh,
you can
boy.
only go at max speed without the meter going down, kind of closer to the ground.
I feel like this is more boring than anything right now.
You notice the meter drop, and so those upgrades will allow you to increase that distance from the ground. And the broom owner.
Okay, so we're upgrading broom.
In
Gotcha.
Is trying to perfect the broom and get better at it and know it better, and you can participate that and get better.
Wow, this is it's really slow, huh?
That mechanic encourages you to actually explore the world and kind of stay close to the ground.
What do you think the limits are of the in-game world here?
You're not just flying high over everything, although
because eventually you run into like people Britain, right? Like Muggle Britain.
On the ground, and so kind of keeping you down at the ground level.
And to me, it feels like it's got this kind of.
It's getting ready. It's getting ready for some hype.
I want to snatch the controller from Andrew right now because I want to go to the mountaintop. I want to go to that fort.
I probably can't do much more. I just don't like it, and I don't care enough. Sorry. I just can't stand the style of marketing, and I don't know whether or not it's actually working.
And so they're both quest opportunities out here and a chance to kind of get.
Should we look at some of the comments? Let's see what people are saying. Timestamps. The people who create these immersive games don't get enough credit. Seriously, the game looks magnificent and jam-packed content. Sounds real. Don't rush, don't crunch, and don't release this game unless you're absolutely certain it's ready. This has the potential to be absolutely amazing. Okay. Very positive people into the lore and everything. I love that they're showing off gameplay early. Oh, this is early? That's usually a sign that devs are confident in the product, and it's a reason to be optimistic about the final game. I don't know. I'm questioning the project in general. I'm definitely questioning the marketing of this project in general, especially given all the not nonsense, but like the general distaste for Rowling in the wake of her revealing certain opinions. And I don't know. I expect it to be very much another open world game. And I'm sure those still perform perfectly well financially. But my goodness, it's so strange to see this style of marketing trying to be applied to a product that just, by all counts, seems to be incredibly standard. And I had to stop. I just cannot take watching someone being paid to be excited about something, specifically being paid to be excited to act excited to advertise something, which is one reason why I don't spend a ton of time on Twitch, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I guess I'll stop. That was a half-baked idea, and I don't think it's worth it right now. But hey, if someone wants to have more of a discussion about that game or that style of marketing in the future, you just let me know. I'd be very happy to do so. But yeah, I will probably start wrapping up here. Didn't even talk about the Game Awards stuff. I guess I don't really care that much. Kind of shocked at a lot of the God of War wins, to be honest, especially regarding narrative and game design. It just seems so similar to tons of other games, rather, that just try to be movies in terms of narrative structure and communicating with the player. And I'm just not a big fan of that at all. But yeah, otherwise, I think I'll probably just go ahead and wrap up the stream. Sorry, I know I've been away from the live streaming stuff for a while now. Hoping to do some more in the near future. Maybe even towards the end of the month, I'll just end up doing a bunch of streaming just for the heck of it, and to try to find a time where people are able to come out live, and stick around and have a chat. But for the moment, yeah, this has been fun. This has been nice, dipping a toe back into the live streaming stuff. And yeah, thanks very much to our live guests, Ugo and Moon. Also, there are some new automated mod tools for YouTube live streams. So I'll check after the fact whether I've gotten any notifications on that. They're trying to stop bots and stuff. So I hope that's not getting in the way of anything, but I'll take a look after we wrap up here. Yeah, is that about it? Is there anything else I should say? Mentioned very much long ago at the start of the stream, but I do have another video coming out soon. It'll be about 8 Crazy Nights. And then after that, who knows? December is famously supposed to be very busy on YouTube, and you're just supposed to put out as much stuff as you can. I don't really play that game, so, it'll be more or less the normal output, unless people are really craving some commentary on something or other. But for now, I hope this has been okay. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope they're dealing with the holiday-related stress as best they can. I know it can be a tricky time of year for a lot of people, if not most of us. So there's that. But yeah, I think that just about does it for me. And yeah, hope everyone has a lovely weekend. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.